it's not me that's possessed, or just the mind. Can't tell what's real anymore.
We're in a really great time of the year where a ton of new games are being revealed, and this new project right here is no exception. What you're looking at is a realistic, brutal project that I've been wanting for years and years. A realistic medieval action game with true-to-life animations and a gritty story. Nothing else, nothing more. It seems so simple, yet not one studio has tried to do this in the past decade and more. But now here we are, and this game looks truly special. The Very Horn came out of nowhere, and the moment the first gameplay clip started making the rounds, you could feel that immediate reaction from people who've been starved for a darker, more grounded medieval game. Not fantasy spectacle, not exaggerated animations, not arcade combat, but that raw, brutal weight on every swing type of medieval violence that actually feels physical. And that's the thing that hits you right away with the Very Horn. It's not trying to be flashy, it's trying to feel real. The reveal footage is gritty in a way most studios don't even attempt anymore. The lighting is harsh, the environments feel damp, cold, and miserable, and the combat looks like it was built around the reality of medieval weapons. Slow, heavy, risky. You can see the animations aren't motion smoothed or sanitized. They're messy in the way real fighting is messy. Blades don't glide through enemies, they snag. Impacts don't just play a particle effect, they jolt the character model. Every hit looks like it hurts because the animations have actual resistance behind them, and the tone of the game is immediately clear. This isn't heroic high fantasy. It's not about saving kingdoms or wielding ancient magic. It's about surviving a world that's cold, unforgiving, and vicious. A world that feels lived in and hostile, with enemies that don't move like NPCs in a theme park. They move aggressively, reactively, and unpredictably. You're not just swinging steel, you're trying not to die. What really stands out is how handcrafted the whole game feels. You can tell the Very Horn isn't designed by a committee. It has this focused, almost obsessive approach to realism that smaller teams thrive on. The parries, the dodges, and the stagger animations, all of it looks like it's been tuned by people who care deeply about how medieval combat actually worked. Not the Hollywood version, but the grimy, brutal one where one wrong move gets you split open. The world itself has that same tone. Dark forests, fog-choked clearings, mud-covered villages, narrow paths soaked in shadow. Everything is pushing the idea that you're always one mistake away from disaster. The atmosphere almost feels like a survival horror game wearing medieval armor, and that's exactly why the reveal made such an impact. It's rare to see a game go this hard on tone and stick to it, and even though the team hasn't dumped a giant list of features yet, the glimpses we do have say a lot. Enemy AI that doesn't just rush you, but actually circles, pressures, and reacts to where you're aiming. Animations that don't reset into idle instantly. Gabe Santia, they carry weight, center of gravity, and commitment. Attacks that can be disrupted. Limbs that stagger and collapse in ways that look motion captured, not canned. There's also something really interesting happening with environmental storytelling. Even in the short clips, you see ruined camps, abandoned fortifications, blood trails running into the dark, flickering torches in places they shouldn't be. It feels like a medieval world that's already gone wrong before you even show up. Games like this live or die on their atmosphere, and the Very Horn already has that nailed down. And the biggest reason people are paying attention is simple. This is exactly the kind of project bigger publishers don't greenlight anymore. It's too gritty, too grounded, too focused on a niche that prioritizes weight, realism, and brutality over mass market spectacle. These are the games that end up being shaped by passion, not marketing departments. And that's why so many players gravitate toward indie or mid-sized teams now. They're the only ones still taking risks on games with an edge. The Very Horn looks like the next one in that line, a project that knows exactly what it wants to be and doesn't care about chasing trends or checking boxes. It's sharper, darker, and more committed to its identity than a lot of medieval games we've seen in years. There's also a big focus on ambient danger. Animals aren't just set dressing, some of them will attack you if you corner them. Humanoid enemies don't all behave the same. Some charge recklessly, others probe, hesitate, even retreat when pressured, and you can tell they're trying to blend scripted design dealing with unpredictable AI, so no encounter feels identical. That's exactly what grounded medieval combat needs. And if this early footage is already hitting this hard, imagine what the full combat system is going to look like once we see more weapons, more enemy types, more systems layered on top of that foundation, more of those tight, suffocating encounters in cramped spaces, more of that heavy directional combat that rewards timing instead of button mashing, more of that world building that leans into the dirt and brutality of the era instead of polishing it up for mass appeal. If this is just a reveal stage, The Very Horn has the potential to become one of those slow burn hits, the kind of game that everyone dismisses until early access drops, and suddenly people realize someone finally made a medieval game that actually feels medieval. And that's exactly why this reveal is getting attention, because something about it feels real, raw, and genuinely different. If the team keeps pushing in this direction, The Very Horn is going to be one of those dark, grounded projects that breaks through purely on authenticity and craft. And honestly, based on what we've seen so far, it deserves every pair of eyes watching it. The Very Horn is exactly the kind of project that reminds you why supporting smaller teams actually matters. Big studios would never make a game like this, not something this raw, this bleak, this unapologetically focused on weight and brutality. There's no glossy cinematic filter, no forced jokes, no everybody can play this smoothing out of edges. It's just a team making the game they want to make, and that kind of creative clarity almost always results in something memorable. And the more you look into it, the more interesting details start surfacing. The developers have been sharing small fragments, nothing huge or marketing driven, just glimpses that say a lot about what they're aiming for. There's an emphasis on animation driven combat where every swing has commitment, not that floaty, snappy, gamey stuff. You're dealing with blade momentum, footwork, handling, and recovery. It's the same design philosophy that made old school immersive sims and early first person melee titles feel dangerous. Here's what the devs had to say concerning their game. Very Horn is a classic open-world RPG inspired by timeless titles such as Baldur's Gate, Icewind Dale, and The Witcher, but our influences reach far beyond games. We draw heavily from cinema as well, the atmospheric precision of Robert Eggers, the raw intensity of The Revenant, the grand vision of Ridley Scott, and many other iconic films that shaped our creative identity. We're not promising a massive world built just for the sake of scale. We want to deliver a narrative that stays with you long after the credits roll. Atmospheric locations, thoughtful dialogue, and moments woven with distinctive humor or irony. These form the soul of Very Horn. We create a living, immersive world where everything follows its own natural rhythm. NPCs live out their daily routines, time and weather shift organically, nature responds, and animals walk their own paths. Every system works together to form a cohesive, believable whole. As a small studio, we're not afraid to break conventions. That's why, even at an early stage, we invite players to test the game and help shape its direction, together with a community that wants to be part of this journey. Like the video right now, to support this game, they need all the help they can have.